Welcome back to Friends Who Want You to Win.
So, let's jump right in. You know that feeling when you are right on the cusp of something great, maybe a promotion, a new relationship, a personal breakthrough, and suddenly you find yourself doing everything possible to derail it. I can resonate with that. That is the conversation that us, your friends, are going to be having today.
Yes. So in today's episode, we're going to unpack why our mind sometimes works against us, particularly when we're faced with challenges. So we're going to explore why we self-sabotage even though we know better.
How we recognize those patterns before they derail us.
Practical strategies to break free from self-defeating behaviors.
Yes, and most importantly, how to build resilience for life's inevitable changes.
Yes, so it's time to dive in, and this is going to be such a phenomenal episode.
So, self-sabotage and adapting to change. These are the two topics. These are things we love to talk about on this podcast, things that we know that everybody has some experience with, that y'all can resonate with at some point in your life. If you've worked on it and you're feeling better about it now, or if you're currently experiencing it, or maybe it hasn't come up for you yet and you're going to have the skills when it does arise. That is why we pick these topics, and this is one I know that most of us can resonate with.
I feel like after you say this topic, there needs to be like a dun dun dun. Because I feel like when people hear self-sabotage and when they hear change, they automatically want to, like, their body actually goes into like,
Yeah.
It actually goes and like they freaks out a little bit because these are scary topics, but it's important that we know what they are. We have tools so that we're not self-sabotaging our life, and we're able to adapt to change.
Yes, absolutely. But listen, anything that when you talk about it, every single muscle in your body gets clenched.
Right.
That's the thing that we should be talking about, so you
Period.
can move through that feeling and find a different feeling to resonate
Yes.
with.
Exactly.
Okay,
Let's
so
talk
tell
about
us
it.
tell us about self-sabotage, Soleil.
So, self-sabotage, dun dun dun.
You gotta insert the sound.
I know, right? Occurs when our behaviors or thought patterns prevent us from achieving our goals. It's often rooted in fear, low self-worth, and low self-esteem. We talked about that last episode, or past experiences. Our brain sometimes prefers the comfort of familiar negative patterns over the uncertainty of positive change. Wait, we gotta repeat that.
You gotta repeat that.
Wait, that last part. Our brain sometimes prefers the comfort of familiar negative patterns over the uncertainty of positive change.
Okay, we have a whole list of these things that you're going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, maybe. But think if there's something that you have a pattern of, that you a pattern can be something even like a relationship, right? You have a pattern of doing something again and again because it's comfortable to you, but there's some voice in the back of your head that knows better. Right? Right? Think of that thing, because everybody has it. Everybody has it. Or maybe it's something that you got over because you moved through it, but that is something that is that kind of like red flag for something that might be self-sabotage. Because if you're staying in it, guess what? That's self-sabotage.
That is self-sabotage. And if you are in denial, your brain is like, I don't do that. But we might actually have some examples that might actually resonate a little bit, right, Ari?
Yeah. So some examples of what the self-sabotage actually looks like can be procrastination is one, right? So we're avoiding something that we know we should be doing elsewise. That's not a word. You know what I'm talking about, though,
Hello.
don't you?
Period.
Negative self-talk is another one. So we are giving ourselves a negative feedback loop about something that might be something you are procrastinating about, right? You're like, oh my God, it's too hard. I'm not capable of it. I don't have the resources that I need to get it done. I need more money. I'll do it later, whatever. Negative self-talk, y'all. Failing to follow up on commitments. This is the big one.
I had to overcome that one. I did. That's a big
relationship destroyer. People get tired of that.
It is. And you know what's so crazy? Failing to follow up on commitments was actually mostly because of the negative self-talk. So a lot of the times I'd be like, oh, it doesn't matter if I show up. It doesn't have any type of impact. Or like I can create an excuse for, my integrity wasn't aligned back in the day. And I didn't realize the impact not only it had on someone else's life, but also on my life because I'm self-sabotaging exactly what you said, the relationship by not following up and keeping that integrity. Wow. That one hit my soul.
And that's real, yes, for real. And that's real because it has like you have multiple of those tied in with each other, right? So it's not so simple as it just being an example of one thing. It's that we can tie all of these in with each other and have them one affecting the next.
100%.
And sometimes negative self-talk is not what you think it is. Negative self-talk is not always like, oh, you look so ugly today. It's all like what you said. It's like, oh, it won't matter if I'm there or not.
That's also negative self-talk.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Okay. Other self-sabotage. Comfort eating.
I know there's some people on this podcast that's hearing this podcast.
The other side of comfort eating is when we're really upset about something emotionally and appetite is gone. We don't eat for days.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? I think a lot of people will resonate with that too. I'm glad you brought that up because people don't often tie in when you restrict eating as an emotional, as almost like an emotional reaction.
Response.
You're self-sabotaging your body. Yes. You're not providing your body the nutrients and you're self-sabotaging your body.
Yes. And not just your body the way that it is physically, but that affects your hormones. It affects your brain having the proper chemicals and nutrients and vitamins to perform the functions that your body needs to keep up with life and all of that.
All of that.
And this was a big one. Avoiding and withdrawing from others. We've all done this. This is a huge one. Making excuses or blaming others.
Yes.
We've all done this.
Picking fights, too. Picking fights. People that pick fights they're looking for something wrong all the time. It's a form of self-sabotage as well.
Yes. Because you're always trying to poke a hole in something that could just be magnificent or maybe is developing into something better, but you don't give it the time and space to.
Right.
And constantly seeking approval is another one. Because when we don't get that approval, we're like, bye. I don't have time for this. And it's like, actually, you self-sabotage that. That was you, boo-boo.
And also, like, going back to what you said about blaming others, I think people don't realize that is self-sabotage. When you're not holding accountability in your life or holding responsibility and you're so busy blaming others, you're self-sabotaging your power entirely. You're self-sabotaging what your impact is on the situation, right?
I love that example. If you need a little bit of a refresher on personal responsibility, go back to the first episode of this season. We go into a deep dive about how you can really get that personal responsibility up. But exactly, that's really where a lot of these things stem from. If I'm trying to find fault in somebody else, or constantly seeking approval, give yourself that praise. Take responsibility for getting that love that you're externalizing, trying to find from somebody else. Or when you were playing the blame game and it's like, oh, this is your fault and that sort of thing. It's like, well, actually, if you started with taking responsibility, you wouldn't even get to that place in the first spot. You would just notice all the ways that you can do better next time.
Yeah, that's a fact. Important. That's period. Hello. All right, so next big question. Why do people self-sabotage?
One of the biggest ones that I feel like with self-sabotage for people is them trying to avoid failure. So it's the fear of failure, which is something that we learn at a very young age, right? You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to look silly in front of other people. And that ultimately manifests into a fear of failure where we are always trying to make sure that we look good in front of other people. And actually, by self-sabotaging, so you never have to fail. In our past episodes, we've told you that failure actually isn't real because when you keep trying or try something new, it never actually happens. But when you are self-sabotaging, so you never have to look like you have failed in front of somebody, it gives you control over that situation and makes that fear of failing less threatening because you basically have maybe given up or acted like it wasn't important to you or whatever it was. But that whole process is the self-sabotaging process, so you can avoid this made-up concept of failure.
It's crazy.
Mind games.
It is. And the thing is, with the fear of failure, you'll never succeed. You never succeed. Yo, that's the crazy part. It's like insanity. You never succeed with the fear of failure. And because of that, you're manifesting your failure. You're manifesting your... I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
Did y'all get that?
I'm so sorry I'm laughing about it, but it's just like so wild. Like,
So if you have a fear of failure, you are always causing yourself to technically fail because you've given up in some way. And then that is you always failing when the whole time, the thing you were trying to avoid was failure. And you're always causing yourself to fail to avoid failure.
That is so crazy to me. That's just so crazy to me. And like, that's just, to me, that's so wild. So honestly, anybody with a fear, pay attention to that. Because if fear of failure does not equal success, I'll tell you that right now.
And so, like, you know what? Sometimes this is where you have to have grace with yourself, because sometimes you have to hear things from a certain... This is why we are friends who want you to win, y'all.
Period.
Because we're just here helping you look into the mirror. But it's like sometimes you have to hear things a certain way for you to be like, what? Like, oh, nah. And then you just don't do it anymore because you're like, oh, that makes no sense.
Yep. So true.
Okay.
So true. Wild. Anyways, next. Another reason why people actually self-sabotage is because of past experiences and narratives from unconscious beliefs. I love diving into this because a lot of people don't realize how much their beliefs actually limits their whole entire life. So, early life experiences that taught success is dangerous. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know if you ever had an auntie or cousin or someone older tell you that money is evil or money is hard or success is this journey and you're gonna compromise so much. And there's there's almost like this negative... It's kind of crazy now that I think about it. I can't believe I'm laughing at all this, but it's almost like this negative connotation of success. Or like, when people say, oh, success is going to change you. Like, that's what you're thinking about? Like that, or money is bad, marriages never last. Oh my gosh. And I feel like this generation is having such a hard time with marriage actually working and being beneficial in people's lives, like, and then they have this whole narrative based off of someone else's heartbreak that they told you marriages never last, they don't work. One time I heard that marriage is suffering. I swear I heard that. I heard marriage is suffering, and I was like, am I gonna suffer? And it's crazy because you internalize it. Is it so? No, it's not so. It's not so. This is not what it is. It's what you believe, and you're moving around in life, you're moving forward in life with that belief. There are a lot of people that have money and have great character and make a difference in the world and have a powerful business or whatever they do. There are a lot of people that have marriages that last or friendships that last. There are a lot of good things happening in our life, and we have to be careful of the narratives that other people are putting onto us in our unconscious beliefs, and we have to be careful how we move with that. So that's, and you know what's so funny, actually, I do have a quick thing about this. I used to believe that because artists were labeled as creatives, they couldn't be intellectuals as well, right? So because of this belief, when I was younger, I would not try in school. I would not give my best effort, and I was literally self-sabotaging myself from learning and growing and enjoying education, because I had this belief that this is, back in the day, that this is not who I am because I am an artist. You have to be careful of the labels that you put on yourself and the beliefs that come with that too, because now I went back to school, have a high GPA, I love learning, I'm reading books all the time, and I consider myself someone that loves education so much. Also, I can be a creative as well. You can live in both worlds. So managing your beliefs can help you manage the outcome from self-sabotage.
And these are things that are like little wormy things that infiltrate your mindset and your attitude. And sometimes they are, like you said, unconscious. They're things that you haven't put into the forefront of your mind. They're just operating back there, and they're determining your approach and your thoughts about the situations that happen around you and the experiences that you have. So like you said, it's like we don't even realize that we're creating from that set point that someone else probably set for you when you were a young person without you being aware of it. They infiltrated a clear mindset that you hadn't formed yet, and they formed your earliest opinions based off of their life experiences. That usually they got from someone else too, by the way.
Exactly.
And you didn't realize that until you had grown through a lot of things. Then you look back on it and you're like, wait, hold on. These two things are not related to each other. Why do I have this belief in my mind that one can only exist without the presence of the other? I can only fit into this artist category if I don't live into the intellectual side of myself. So a really good way to point this stuff out for you guys, for yourself, is for you to look at, this is when I first realized it, you know what, one of the things that I would always find, like, whenever a situation happened with, like, myself and my husband, we would always be like something would happen that we had to deal with, we'd be like, it's always something, always something. This is such a small thing, but I called it out one day, and I was like, why do we say that? Like, why are we calling in always something that's an undesirable situation that's happening to us? And I'm like, I don't want more of that. Why am I always calling it in? Like, always, always, always. Girl, and you heard somebody else around you using that phrase. So look at the phrases that you use when things happen in life. When something happens and you have a phrase that comes out of your mouth, I guarantee you it is an unconscious, pre-programmed belief that you probably never agreed to. It has infiltrated you, and you very possibly are self-sabotaging yourself by continuing the repetition of that pattern.
You know what's so crazy? I feel like so many people have phrases like that. So I love that you called that out, because everyone has a phrase, you know, or, you know, like, this whole thing, you know, it's going to be controversial because a lot of people love this, but a lot of people hate it. The whole, like, it is what it is. Right? Oh, it is what it is. Like, I have no power in that. I have no control over that. So there's so many little phrases that have such a big impact in our beliefs and how we are moving in life. And I love that you pointed that out, because it's always something. It's so small, but it's so, like, powerful at the same time, you know, like, it's such a small thing that you guys are doing and you're not even thinking consciously about it, but it's so powerful. you know? So I love that you pointed that out. Love that. So yeah.
That's the starting place for everybody, is look at what your phrases are and then see what kind of attitude they hold for you. So if they're contributing to your greatness and your enjoyment of life, then keep it up. You know, if it's like one of the ones I use for gratitude is like, I really love blank. Please, I would love some more. Like, I welcome it in to come in, right? And
that
so
is
that's
yours.
Really awesome. Yeah.
That
so
is
it's like,
yours, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm open and receptive to blank, blank, blank. A cash infusion of $300,000, right? Yes, that's great for me, right?
No, I love that. I love that.
Right. But if there are things that are like always something, or it is what it is, or whatever, it's like you're disempowering yourself with that negative self-talk. You're recreating an old pattern that wasn't of your decision in the first place. And that's your set point for the things that are coming your way. You're viewing them from that place that you've set yourself at. And that's a place, maybe, a self-sabotage.
Period. So past experiences and narratives from unconscious beliefs. Period.
Absolutely. And you touched on this a little bit. I just want to share this last one because I see this in a lot of people in the business world, with us as business owners and the people that you talk to who are going through the process of moving from, and it can be with anything. It's not just in business, but it's someone who's going through the process of creating their own image about themselves in a certain area of life. And it's where we are feeling worthy or not of receiving that outcome. And it's people who self-sabotage because of a fear of success.
Yes.
Right?
That's the next one. Yes.
This is so tricky because it's like someone who has success in an area that they haven't had it before. A, it means that you are having to go through some sort of change, which is scary. You're not wanting to adapt to that change. B, it means that the people around you are going to, and you are going to have to learn a new version of your identity. And that's
a big
terrifying.
One. It's so terrifying. Big. It's so terrifying because it's like, okay, you're moving into a whole different space and you almost have to let the version of you that was holding on to I don't even want to say like a past version of you that may be unhealthy. You have to let that die, you know, when you're changing your identity. People don't actually talk about this. When you are on the path of success, it actually takes a lot of personal development work too. You have to feel worthy of your success. If you don't feel worthy of your success, you are going to self-sabotage it, period. If you have the identity, if you're so used to being the person that doesn't perform well or is the failure, like even like the label, if maybe you're the person in your family that, you know, people feel like you're just cruising in life, you know, and then you have to let go of that identity in order to claim your success.
Yes. So this is another one that I bet people might realize that they're doing when they would say, oh no, I don't have a fear of success. But if you look at certain things, so an example for me is over a decade ago, I went on a health journey and transformational changed my whole life. Literally the best thing that ever happened to me. One of the best things. And
Period.
And over time, I mean, changed my whole life trajectory, like everything. Over a period of time, I lost over 100 pounds, and it was just like everything changed, and everything changed all at once. It was very quick. It wasn't like over years. Well, it was over years afterwards, but it was a lot all at once. And I actually was living in a different country at the time, so no one had seen me. And it was crazy because my identity shifted while I was on a different continent, and nobody was a part of the gradual changes that were happening because I was gone for so long. Yeah. And then when I was reintegrating myself, with my friends and my family, my whole identity was different. My personality and the way I carried myself was different because I had gone through this massive transformation. And it was really interesting because I had these moments where I had to avoid my fear of success. I had to confront my fear of success because I was in a friend group now where like people are approaching me differently inside the friend group than they used to, right? So like I'm like the cute girl getting the attention now when I used to be like the chubby girl who was like funny and played the cut. You know? And it was like
you had to let go of that identity.
Yes.
You had to let go of that identity was
dead.
operating that way. Yeah. Nobody talks about that.
Gone.
That's
it was
hard.
Gone. And
it's hard.
And I was dealing with a different level of attention from people when you're used to like just doing you or whatever, and now there was a different attention being paid, and it was overwhelming AF. And I had to look at myself and be like, wait, who is this woman? You know, like, who am I as this new person that when people meet me for the first time, they have a whole different perception of me in their mind than what I have created of my life history of knowing me. It was crazy, girl. It was crazy. So
crazy.
The really important thing for us to do is to check in at each phase of your development and ask yourself, who am I at this place in time? Because nobody knows that old version of you that you're letting go of, that you're letting die. You have the power to redefine yourself in your own version of your success. Who do you want to be? Mm-hmm. You have the power, and you don't have to lose 100 pounds to do it. You could step outside tomorrow and act like the most successful version. Yes,
the energy shift, you know. Once you have that energy shift within yourself, you're going to start seeing it in the outside world. It's going to show up physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. But you have to commit to the energy shift, right? And it's almost letting go. Actually, it's what we're going into more now, actually, is the fact that a lot of your internal world is impacting your external world, and the connection between that, you're either self-empowering or you're self-sabotaging. That's the two things that that's almost connecting us from the internal into the external world, right? Yep. So, I mean, like, we have a lot of, there's a lot of reasons that you may self-sabotage. It could be imposter syndrome, familiar discomfort, low self-worth. We talked about low self-worth and low self-esteem, or your need for control. A lot of people that are, feel like they have to control the situation are self-sabotage, because if you cause the failure, it feels less random. It feels less threatening. It feels less like change. It feels less of all that. But when you ask yourself, why am I self-sabotage? I want you to take this with you. And we'll really go into it more in a second. But self-sabotage behaviors can sometimes be a subconscious attempt to maintain a familiar internal state. So that relationship between the internal and external, even if it's negative, essentially trying to stay the same despite a desire for improvement. Yes. So what we're talking about, the connection between the internal and the external world, right? I just have to repeat that one more time, and then Ari, you could dive into what it really means and simplify it for everyone that's listening, because we want to make sure that you really get this. But self-sabotaging behaviors can sometimes be a subconscious attempt to maintain a familiar internal state, even if it's negative, essentially trying to stay the same despite a desire for improvement.
Yes.
Come on.
So in simple terms, what that means, because that is the truth. That is the truth. 100% truth. And someone might say, oh, I'm not self-sabotaging, or they might say, oh, I'm not doing any of those things they just listed. But this is a part of the human condition that we all have been we've all been guilty of this in some way, in some format throughout our life. So this means we are in some way messing up our own progress without realizing it, because we're used to how things are. Changing too much, or changing too much all at once, or changing your identity and you don't know that real version of yourself, whatever it is, change feels scary and uncomfortable. And so we stick to what is familiar, even when our words say we want to do better. This is one of the, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, actually, I just had a realization. It's almost like a battle between your brain and your heart. And what I mean by that is like your brain and your body is ultimately tailored to protect yourself. It's tailored to protect you, right? Yep. So we'll talk about self-sabotage and how it plays into the role of protecting yourself. But it's ultimately creating ways to protect you from danger, right? Even if your heart wants something different, even if your heart wants change and improvement and wants to grow and wants to experience love at its highest form, or success at its highest form, or self-confidence in its highest form, your brain may not necessarily be used to that. And because it's not used to that, it's always resisting what is really resonating in your heart. You know, like I feel like that it's like this whole game of what's in your heart versus what's your mind actually doing. Yep.
So this is I'll give you one of my secret tips of the years that I've done personal development coaching with people. And it's one of my secret tells of anybody that I encounter, including myself when I'm holding myself accountable and personally responsible, which is a continual process, is do that person's words match their actions? It cuts through all the BS and it immediately tells me, are you somebody who is living through intention and authenticity, where you are bringing your true self to the surface, regardless of your fear of change, regardless of all of the things that change brings up? And you understand that the things that you say also have to be the things that you do. Because people will say a thing because they feel like it looks good and it's what they're supposed to say. But then because they are a victim of their own self-sabotage, they act differently. Because they're not able to live that truth that they speak on. It's a red flag. And I would always notice it when I was coaching with people, and they would be like, yeah, I want this. It was one of the things, like, people would see the things that I had accomplished in my life through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And they would be like, I want that. That's what I want for me. I want the same thing. Help me get there. You've done it. Help me get there. And I'm like, okay, word. So this is the outcome that you say you want. These are the things that you have to do to get there. And when those things never align for people, it is the red flag of a lifetime that person in some area of their life or multiple areas of their life is self-sabotaging.
And you know, it saddens me. I'm not going to front. It really saddens me when people have that desire in their heart, but their mind and their actions can't seem to commit to it. And it's oftentimes that's in their mind. It's the things that we talk about before, the low self-esteem or past experiences. And it's like this weight that is holding individuals down. And it saddens me because you see that they desire whatever the goal is. They desire it, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, for some reason, the disconnect is happening. And it's important that we're having this conversation, because if you could look at every area of your life right now, relationships, self-confidence, everything, success, everything. If you could say to yourself, I am completely and utterly just so fulfilled in that area, chances are you're not self-sabotaging in that area. Right? Where it's like, if you're looking at it, you're like, I feel fulfilled. I know, or I'm healthy in this area. I mean, let's disconnect our own belief of what fulfillment is. You know what it is to be healthy in a certain area, whatever it may be. You have this, or we already know this. We're all grown. We know what that looks like. If you can identify that I am healthy in this area, chances are you're not really self-sabotaging this area. But if you're if you're looking at another area and it's unhealthy in a way, whether it's a toxic relationship or whether it's you saying like you can't, for some reason I hear this all the time. Ari, I don't know if you see it, but when people say, I always get to like this point and it's like something happens. I'm like, you happen. You happen. You have to see it as you, but you happen. You create this block from that next level, but it's ultimately, which we're going to talk about next, it's ultimately your ability to adapt, to change, to embrace the success, to embrace that you're deserving of what comes next. And you're prepared and you're ready and you're capable to be able to overcome any challenges that may come with going into that next level.
Yes, absolutely. And if someone, the thing is you can have fulfillment or you can have what feels like you being healthy in those particular areas, but it's always with the room for you to grow and improve and have new goals that you're working towards, right?
Period.
And because but you're continually doing that process.
Yeah.
So if I get healthy in one area, it is now my job to continue on the path of personal improvement to keep working towards those things that bring me that fulfillment, right? And I'm only able to complete that process because I have let go of my need to self-sabotage as a fabricated way of protecting myself from irrational fears. I've let go of that. And so you're able to complete that flow of personal development. This stuff is really important because it actually gets to the root of exactly what happens when people can't achieve their dreams.
Or even grow, like change or embrace life changes, right? Like life is going to change, right? It's that thing that people get stuck. And I think people have Ari, we talk about this all the time. I think people have a false idea of how life looks like in its end phases. And what I mean by that is not everyone, and I need people to wake up because this was a really big wake up call for me. Not everyone gets a happy ending. It's really hard to hear that. Not everyone gets a happy ending. People think that the way that they're operating is just going to magically work out. That's not what happens. Yeah. You have to make it work. You have to curate how you want the next phases of your life and the last phase of your life to look like. And a lot of people, I feel like they waste time with this. They allow the self-sabotage to operate for so long. And they never adapt to change, and they never embrace success, or they never take accountability. They never do it. And then they wake up and then they go into the victim mindset of why did this happen to me in their later years. It's important that you embrace change. Life is going to change. You embrace success. You embrace the good things in your life. Because if you don't, your happy ending, whatever it may look like to you, there's a chance it may not happen. And I think if people understand the heaviness of that, they would choose carefully, right?
They would choose carefully, and they would focus on the process of taking responsibility to choose.
Period.
I think I know, Soleil, we talked to so many people where we become accustomed to living our life through a set of patterns. And we just do the thing again and again. And very often we talk to people who never stop to ask themselves, is this what I want? And then when the answer is creeping in the back of your mind, like, not really, you have to have the intestinal fortitude to be, you have to be the one who initiates the change. What you're saying is so important. You cannot sit around waiting for the change to happen, right? And this is where that conversation in like manifestation or inspired action always clashes. You need a healthy dose of both.
Period.
You need to have that big dream that you have for yourself that you're always updating and working towards. But you're the one who goes out today and acts differently than you did yesterday to create a different result.
Oh my gosh. And it's adapting to change. That's adapting to change within yourself. That is embracing change within. Because life is going to change. We're going to get older. Think people are going to, you're going to see I'm in the phase of life right now where I literally am seeing the elders go into change. Elders go into the next life, or I'm seeing new babies happen. I'm seeing people get into success in their career. I'm seeing people change phases in their career. And I'm also seeing the people that are stuck. And it's always heartbreaking because no matter what you do, no matter how much you love someone, and you can tell them, because I have a conversation with my sisters all the time, talking about like this next phase, because I'm the oldest sister. If this next phase of life, you better have this, you better have that, you better have that, and you better move forward. Don't go back. Don't stay still. Move forward. Adapt to life, because life does happen. It has its moments, and you gotta be ready. So let's define adapting to change. So adapting to change means to adjust or modify oneself or one's behavior to fit new circumstances or situations. Essentially being flexible and willing to change in response to new information or environments. Love that part. Willing to change in response to new information or environments, because as life grows, you're going to be in new environments. You're going to move. You're going to do whatever it may be. It involves embracing new approaches and modifying existing strategies when necessary.
Yes.
Modifying.
And I would even end that sentence early. It is always going to be necessary in some different version of itself. It is embracing new approaches and modifying existing strategies again and again
and again, because we get new information. We always say information is love. You're going to get new information on how to operate. Even in the podcast, you're going to hear new information here. It's your choice whether you're going to embrace it and apply it into your life. But we're here. Information is love. We're here talking about new strategies of how you can really be that powerful person in life, right?
We're here trying to help you win. You guys.
Period. Period.
Yes, and this is so important, because we think of all the times, like just what you were saying. I want to give a super quick example because I know you resonate with this. Mm-hmm. Is I think of all the times how many different identities my relationship with my partner has gone through. And if I were still trying to approach him from my old set point, or he was trying to approach me from his old set point, the love would be gone. That love would be out the window.
So
right?
True.
Right? True. And this is what's really hard about being in interpersonal relationships with people, because if I'm committed to my growth and you're not, it's gonna get really sticky for us. Right?
Oh my God.
And you have to appreciate always modifying your existing strategies when necessary, because that's the thing that keeps your love and excitement towards yourself and towards those around you in an evergreen format. It can always grow and develop into something new because you are open to adapting to those changes. This ties in. These are the things that are the key points for you to recognize when you are getting comfortable with adapting to changes. So when I said before about you notice yourself or someone else around you, your words don't match your actions. Mm-hmm. This is a clue into some area that you're not feeling comfortable with, and you're not doing the things that you say that you want to be doing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I would guide when I would notice somebody not doing something that they say that they want to be doing, is that I would try to get to the bottom of what they're holding on to. What is that thing that you're not letting die? It's time to, we all know it because we feel it like this inside of you, right? We feel it. Sometimes you don't want to admit it. Sometimes it's all the way back here. Sometimes it's in here. Sometimes it's in the belly. We feel it.
We do.
And you know it. And so I ask people, what are you not being flexible towards? What are you not willing to let go of? What idea or expectation are you holding on to that you won't let it go?
Flexibility is a powerful thing to practice. If you practice flexibility, you will get the most out of life. Yes. The world is not only operating based on how you believe it does. There is so much to learn from each other. There's so much to learn from the earth. There's so much to learn there's so much to learn. And it's like, if you can be flexible, you are embracing life. Yes. That's really what it is, you know?
And that goes back to this example of the relationship, right? So if I was flexible and my partner wasn't, or vice versa, then I'm always holding on to this old idea of who you were, right? When people get married and they fall in love in this way, and then they say, never change. I never change. The way you are.
I know.
That is a setup for failure. If we are doing life together, this isn't just in your romantic relationships. This is in your family. This is with your friends. This is with your business partners. This is with everybody. We should be embracing. We should be celebrating. We should be absolutely obsessed with coming to the table as a different person than you were yesterday. I should love that about you. Yep. I love that you're different. It fascinates me. I'm mesmerized. It encourages me to do the same thing with myself. I love learning and growing with you in this relationship because we are both helping each other do better.
Girl, you know what is crazy? And I keep using my hands, and I apologize if you're hearing it on the sound, but I just got so excited what you just said.
That's what Soleil does.
I know, it's the energy that comes out. Yes. But you just said that relationship dynamic where you're embracing change, that's real love. Like when you're really embracing someone else growing and changing in different phases of their life. That's what I love. I've seen like the Instagram clips of like people that have been best friends since they were 14, and how when they were 14 they were going to high school parties and doing whatever, you know, all the crazy stuff that was happening in high school, and then they're all of a sudden they've grown so much where they have families, they have careers, and they are able to adapt their relationship their selves, and they're able to feel comfortable in their relationship so that they carry that friendship in those different phases. Right? Because if it doesn't operate that way, and I'm just pretty much, if I'm only liking a certain version of you, that's tied to my ego and my selfishness. Totally. That's tied to my selfishness. If someone's not embracing someone's change or growth, it's because you're serving their ego.
They're using that version of you to meet their needs.
Boom. Yep. Boom. That's it right there. Boom.
You're not loving me for me and how fulfilled I am in life. You're keeping me around to make you feel a type of way.
And let me tell you, those relationships never work out. They never. When a person wakes up to that, boy, when they wake up, they get really turned off really quick, because you get to see that it doesn't play into a healthy dynamic at all.
So this will be a challenge for you, listeners, as you have learned what you learned from this episode today, and then you go and practice this in your relationships. You have to have that courage for people to maybe not like you in the same way that they did before, because you are embracing change.
Isn't that a fact?
And those people will point themselves out, girl. You don't have to go on the hunt. They're going to be front and center telling you why you shouldn't change because this is bad for everybody.
Or they disappear. All of a sudden, they're not available. All of a sudden, they don't want to hang out. All of a sudden, whatever. You get to see those people, a lot of times, they disappear because they don't want to confront whatever it is within themselves or why they're uncomfortable with your change, which is very difficult. You know what's so crazy? I've been in friendships, and even recently, I've been in friendships where I'm embracing a new level of life, and it's almost like I don't want to tell them. I don't want to tell the good stuff that's happening. And it's like, it's so difficult. I guess we have to have another podcast episode about that dynamic of allowing each other to grow and change and how to really be supportive, because it gets scary when you don't want to tell a person that you may love something good that's changing in your life, because of whatever the dynamic is that they may have been comfortable for you, comfortable of you in, So that's a whole thing, though. Whole thing.
And that's how you can recognize those relationships that might be a challenge as you take on your confidence and agree to living that more true version of yourself where you're working on those things that have been all in the shadows. People get uncomfortable when they notice somebody embracing their power. Yeah. And when we are embracing our power, it's us admitting the things that you want to work on to be a better person. And the reason that you make them uncomfortable, like you said, Soleil, is because that person doesn't want to have to face those things within themselves. So they move all the way away from that because they're like, I'm not going to get taken down with you on this path to excellence. I'm going to stay comfortable where I'm at and continue to self-sabotage.
That's the crazy part. When you stop self-sabotaging and the people around you are still in that same dynamic, creating excuses and holding themselves back. And I can't do this until I do this. Or moving, we haven't talked about this yet. It's in the future, like we're going to talk about it later, but moving the goalpost. When people are moving the goalposts of whatever their goal is, that's a form of self-sabotage, cutie. Like, stop moving the goalposts. Stop waiting for happiness to happen to you. You gotta get up and make that happen. You gotta make happy happen, okay? You gotta make life happen so you could create that. But, girl, that's a whole thing. Oh, my gosh.
And part of those people's comfort is the fact that you are a process of their enabling. Period. They need you to reinforce those things to them so they feel better about the things that they're self-sabotaging.
Oh my! And then you get the whole yes, totally. And you get the whole I miss the old version of you. Ugh.
And then you're like, okay.
Really?
That's when you really. But that's the process, and this is why people get caught up along this process a lot, because they don't want to go through the discomfort of losing those relationships with people that they might have held for a lifetime. But this is a part of what you have to do, and as you start to live more in your truth, as you let go of that self-protecting way of sabotaging your outcomes, you will start to attract people who are living into that same process of what you're doing. So as those old people fade out, you'll find yourself attracting new relationships to you with people who are in the same process of what you're doing. And that's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
That's how Soleil and that's how we came to really connect with each other, was because we were in that same exact process in life where we were admitting all of the things of a lifetime that we have been avoiding, and we were like, I want to work on this. I want this to be better. I want to improve this area of my life. I want to let that old version of me die. I want to take personal responsibility and feel empowered and fulfilled and healthy in all my areas of life. And we would just talk. We were like, oh my God, you too?
And I gotta say, if you guys have a good friend, you'll resonate with this, because I was at a point where I was having a lot of breakthroughs, and it was a lot of pain that comes with breakthroughs when you start realizing how you've been self-sabotaging your life, or how you do need to change, or, you're stepping into a new growth. There's a lot of pain that comes with that because you have to let the old version of you die. And I don't know if you guys have anybody around you in your life like this, but Ari held it down for me so many ways. I can get very emotional because I remember being in your apartment and you cooking and you literally listening to me go through so many different phases of my life. And I have to thank you because you holding that space for me allowed so much growth to happen. It was so, I could literally get emotional right now, but having you as a friend is such a blessing. And I think that it's so important for people to know who's around you, because you really supported me in my growth to stop self-sabotaging, or to really embrace a different version of myself when I needed to let go of an old version of myself. And you held that space so beautifully for me. So if anybody listening does have a friend like that, I'm so grateful for my friendship with Ari in that time, because I can't tell you how many times I was having a breakdown and Ari would stay on the phone with me for hours and talk it through. So it's just so beautiful when you do have that support. And I just thank you, Ari. Seriously. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for that. Can't even tell you, girl.
I so receive that. And that's that process of like, when you're on the same page with somebody, you're like, I want this for her. Like, I want her to realize all the things that she deserves for herself, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, she deserves to go through the super uncomfortable moment that she's in right now so she can experience what's on the other side of it. And when you have that with somebody, you're just like, I would do anything to help you experience that, right? Like, when you see somebody putting in that work with themselves and getting uncomfortable and embracing the change in the moment when there's nothing cute about it, we deserve to support each other in that. That is literally what makes the world a better place. So
that's a friend. That's a friend who wants you to win. That's a friend that wants you to win. For real. Yes. When you're having change in your life and that friend can be there and support, and it's like you have to go through it yourself. Nobody can go through it for you. But that level of support, that's a friend who wants you to win, y'all. For real.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And like we said, when you start to shift your energy, those relationships come in. Period. We met each other at that time when we needed those supports as we went through these wild, rocky, uncomfortable change. It's like, change. And you know what's so funny? I don't want to scare everyone away, but I am going to say, you know what I'm going to say, when you start to open yourself to these things, new things will reveal themselves to you that you have been needing to learn about yourself. So definitely get yourself ready for a journey. But as you get more comfortable being uncomfortable, you find that those things come about more easily. It's because you adapt to that space and you build those skills, it's not as hard and uncomfortable as it used to be. So the more you do it, the easier it will get. But the universe is going to send you those lessons, boo.
It is going to send you those lessons, and you have a choice. And it's always with change. You know, I remember my first time living by myself, I was freaking out. Like, I was like, what am I doing? This is like, after pandemic, it's really hard. It was really difficult. But during those sensitive moments of change, you have a choice to either self-sabotage and keep doing the same thing over and over again, or to do something different. Now, is it painful to do something different? I'm not going to lie. It is.
Every time.
But is it worth it in the future? Yes, because you just operating in this pattern is not going to benefit you. So I want to talk about also, why does self-sabotage often intensify during periods of change? I want you to sit with this, y'all, because that you do have a choice when that change happens. You can either keep doing the same thing, or you can, step into the new world, step into the new possibilities of what can come into your life. So, change triggers our survival instincts and creates uncertainty. Self-sabotage can be a misguided attempt to maintain control and protect ourselves from potential failure or disappointment. But what I really want to highlight, change triggers our survival instincts and creates uncertainty. It's scary to not know what's next. It's so scary. I'm not going to front. Sometimes you're like, especially if you have low self-esteem, which at the time I was still like developing a healthy self-esteem, it's very scary because you have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and to believe in yourself so that you're able to handle the change, right? But the thing is, there's a mantra I took on that helped me throughout my entire life, but definitely that sensitive moment in my life. It was to let life happen. Let life happen. When change is happening, let it happen. Let life happen. Do not resist. Because if you try to resist, you're going to be stuck in a phase even when life is moving forward.
Yep.
And that's tough.
Without you.
Without you. It's so, you're going to be stuck in a phase even when life is moving forward without you. So change can trigger fear, the survival instincts. It creates uncertainty. But you have to let life happen, and you have to believe that you're able to ultimately handle whatever's being thrown at you.
Yes.
Period. You know?
Yes. And the more you practice that, the more that you will build your own self-belief. But Soleil and I are here to tell you that you have the capability and the skills to always figure it out. The challenges and the things that happen in life that are sent your way are always meant to teach you something, which means that you have the capability to move through that moment and make it out on the other side with better skills and a better version of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. All of those things are on purpose. So the more that you smooth through that process, the more that you don't resist it. Because when we self-sabotage again and again, like you said, life moves on without you. You end up being stuck in a position that causes more and more of that friction in your life over time. Because you have avoided the lesson again and again. And it's like, no, you didn't hear us. You need to learn this. So you think that you're keeping yourself safe by protecting yourself against that change, but actually what you've done is you've made it so much harder.
Much harder.
Everyone who's listening, raise your hand if you've had something that was a very similar situation happen to you multiple times in your life.
Over and over again.
And you
it doesn't go away.
This again, it
doesn't go away. Never goes away, Ari. And that's the thing. I literally have seen people 70, 80 years old. And the thing is, when 90 years old, when you're at that phase of life, it still comes up. And when it comes up, it's a lot harder. When it comes up, it's a lot harder to deal with. Because all those defense mechanisms, the reality of not maturing or getting older, that goes. It leaves. So girl, what? Like, you gotta deal with it now. Whatever it is.
Yep.
The lesson, whatever lesson, that lesson is meant for you to grow and embrace something so beautiful and new in your life.
Yes, it is meant for you and you only.
Period.
Here, if we haven't driven this point home enough, here are a slew of ways that this can totally destroy every area of your life if you keep avoiding the process of change that is meant for you right now, okay?
Yep.
There are the mental and emotional effects. So the anxiety and stress that comes with the situations that arise, the depression, the isolation that comes from self-isolation that might be on purpose, or people moving away from you because you're a very difficult person to deal with. There's the loss of confidence that comes along with all of these situations never working out for you because it's always something, right? This is what we say, oh, God, this again? Yes, boo, you didn't learn it yet. The fear of failure, which we've already talked about. The issues that it can cause in your career, right? You can have professional stagnation. You're stuck. You're stuck
no growth.
Forever. No growth. You have a fear of earning more money that you took on from your grandfather and your father, and it was passed down to you, and you get stuck in that job. You're missing opportunities. You're not moving up. You're falling behind. You're watching other people get promotions, and you're just here with bad luck.
Oh.
Your relationships. You grow distance from other people. You have an issue with building new relationships because you're stuck on old things and you haven't adapted to the change, and other people are. You're isolating, you have difficulty finding maybe the love that you're looking for.
New connections.
Or new connections, friendships. You have problems getting along with your family. And overall, all these things that we've talked about this has a massive impact. This is the root cause of people struggling with personal growth. You're never leveling up, boo, because you F it up every time there's an opportunity. Straight up.
Facts.
And then that issue affects your resilience. So you're not able to move through challenging situations because you never try, because you avoid it. And you have a whole lifelong history of negative patterns that you've tied to your identity, and you think that that's a part of who you are, right? And then all of this leads to wear and tear on your body. This causes health issues. When we internalize emotional problems and stress and we don't move through those things, it manifests as issues with your GI. People get ulcers.
Yeah.
People get problems with fertility.
Yeah.
People have cancer
Yeah.
at higher rates. It's really, really, the whole system is tied to itself. And everything comes from your ability to let go and let flow.
Period. So you know what? With all that being said, here are some life changes that lead to self-sabotaging behavior. And I really want y'all to hear us because there's something very particular about these life changes, okay? Getting a major promotion or leadership role, starting a new job or career shift, deepening emotional intimacy in your relationships. Also, when someone is vulnerable to you, receiving genuine love and support can also be a life change that leads to self-sabotage. Building healthy friendships after toxic ones. Starting therapy, personal development work, because you go into, like they don't understand what I'm saying, or like your self-sabotaging behaviors. Developing healthy habits, finally achieving a long-term goal, getting out of debt, financial independence, or stability. What's common about all of these things, these life changes that lead to self-sabotaging behaviors, is they're all good things happening in your life.
Yup.
They're all good things happening in your life. People don't realize when you're about to self-sabotage, it's because something good is happening. Something good is about to happen. And your brain is trying to keep you stuck in whatever mindset you are
Freak
before
out.
the promotion, or before the emotional intimacy in your relationship, or before even the therapy process or personal development work. Your mind is always creating certain excuses. Oh, I can't, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, I can't possibly do this, or that doesn't mean anything. You're continuously ignoring the lesson, which is leading self-sabotaging behaviors, which then you never benefit from all those good things happening. You don't benefit from the major promotion. You don't benefit from the emotional intimacy between your partners, or even your healthy friendships happening after toxic ones. It's all rooted, as we all say, in fear, but it always, self-sabotaging always comes about when something good is about to happen in your life, or something good is already happening in your life, and you just can't accept it. Can you believe that? That's a big breakthrough for me, Ari. That was a huge
So many people
one.
just learned something new. That's crazy.
People think self-sabotage is a reaction to bad things. No, it's a reaction to good things happening in your life. If you're in a relationship and all of a sudden you're feeling, I don't know, distance, or you're feeling these like negative things about this person, or you're getting like anxiety and you're thinking, oh, they have to be with somebody else or something like that. That's often because, not saying all the time, everyone, because certain things are happening, but often, sometimes we get triggers like that because we're going into another level of life. In our career, in our relationships, and whatever, we're going to another level of life, and our brain can't handle it. And if you're aware that your brain can't handle it, then is trying to stop it, then you can do something about it.
Yep.
You can do something.
Intervene on yourself.
Period.
Who has heard of those? The perfect example of this is when people are in relationships and they'll be like, oh, it was just too good. And people like create a stir up because things are too calm, or there's too much peace, or sometimes our nervous system responds to that because we're used to the trauma, right? Of disorder. We're used to the trauma of shouting or violence or whatever it is. And so when the calm comes and we're like, run!
How many of my girlfriends have I heard, right? Literally my girlfriends that I've heard say, oh, he's too, like, after a while, after year 3, the relationship it's so boring. And I'm like, boring? It's boring? And I was like, they'd be like, yeah, it's boring. And I'm like, well, are you doing it? You guys doing it? He's like, yeah, it just feels so calm. It just feels so no excitement. And I'm like, girl, I think before you could have excitement, you could build the excitement. You can go out and go skydiving for all you want. But to say that it's just boring, I'm like, look at what you're used to.
It's the foundation of a not toxic relationship. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome.
Now, you should still be encouraging each other's the things that make you guys feel excited and your hobbies,
of course,
and the things you like to spend your time doing.
But
calm
but
good.
I mean, like, come on. I have a routine when I wake up. I make Travis, my husband, coffee. I drink some water. I make some breakfast. I meditate. I work out. And sometimes for other people, it may look boring. My life right now, it's exciting in so many ways. I still go out. I hang out with my friends, but it's very calm over here.
And that's the thing is that people will misconstrue calm with boring, right?
Yes.
Those are not the same thing, because you can be, so someone doesn't love routine, right? That's for you, Soleil, that you love whatever Soleil's morning routine is that works really well for you. I like to be spontaneous all the time, right? And I have to be doing something different all the time. Okay, that's fine. But you should be able to find a safe space in areas of your life, because that is what gives us the ability to relax and not have to protect yourself.
Period.
That's where it starts from.
Period.
Right?
Period.
So I'm not having to always be in this place of heightened response because I have calmness in the areas, even though I might be energetic and I might feel like I'm ready to go. You have that safety for you to actually look at yourself and admit the areas that you want to change and feel like you have a supportive network within yourself and those around you to face those changes and move forward. When I start to turn into a different person, when I start to actually embrace the next level of me, those people will be around and I am able to let go and not have to be in self-sabotage mode all the time.
You know what? Also, I think people don't know the difference between self-protection and self-sabotage when navigating change. They don't know the difference, right? So, yes, your body and your brain is meant to protect you. And sometimes it's very useful. And sometimes it's protecting you from imaginary situations. So in order for you to understand the difference, we're going to break down the difference right here. So when facing change, your brain may react in two ways: protecting yourself or self-sabotage. Now, with protecting yourself, this involves your brain activating the stress response to help you stay safe, such as planning ahead, setting boundaries, assessing risk. It's a healthy reaction to ensure well-being and avoid harm. So you know what I always think of? I always think of Lion King, right? Lion King with Rafiki. There's a scene in the original one. Well, actually, maybe in the live version one, in the first one. I don't know. But there's a scene where Rafiki hits Simba across the head with a stick, right? And then Simba's like, why you do that for? And he was like, well, you weren't ready for it, right? So then Rafiki does it again. And when Rafiki does it, Simba ducks, right? He gets out of the way of the stick. That is your brain and your body protecting yourself, period, right? Think about self-sabotage, though. Self-sabotage, this occurs when fear or insecurity triggers your brain to avoid risk or challenges, even when growth opportunities are present. The brain may default to familiar, comfortable patterns, even if they limit progress due to anxiety or a fear of failure. So almost like self-sabotage, it's like an illusionary threat in a sense.
Yes. Yep. And it's like, to compare it to the example you just gave, which I love, is that you don't have the courage to move out of the way, and so you let yourself get hit on the head again and again and again.
Or
and
even
stay in that process.
Even Rafiki may go get himself a cup of tea and you're flinching. You're flinching because you think Rafiki is going to hit you with the stick. But Rafiki's going out to get maybe not some tea in the jungle. Maybe he went to go hang out on the tree or whatever. But he went to go hang out on the tree, but you're flinching because you think it's going to happen again. You're almost like creating a fear and a distance between your friendship, because you think that's going to occur.
Yep. So protecting yourself is positive.
Yes.
It's not that we're saying that you shouldn't go through that process of making sure that the things that you take responsibility for are through the lens of what is best for you. That's a process that we should always be checking in about, right? Like you said, assessing risk, you have to set boundaries.
Period.
Planning ahead is always beneficial. But we want to toe the line of that, right? Because there is that point where we're protecting ourselves against something that is imaginary. We think that maybe it could happen, but it might be something that happened to someone else, or it might be something that happened to you 20 years ago, or right? And we're still protecting against it. And it's like, that's not serving you. You have to let that go.
Let it go.
Yep.
Let it go.
So,
Love that.
Yes. So you want to look at that process and ask yourself, am I protecting myself against things that are not serving me, or are fabricated fears that are actually don't exist in my life, and I'm always going through some sort of process of self-sabotage to keep imaginary things from not happening to me that weren't happening in the first place.
And blocking growth. You're blocking growth.
You're always blocking growth when you do that. You're always going to be blocking some growth. Like Soleil said, there is some opportunity that is coming into you that's making you uncomfortable and you feel like you have to protect against it. But it never even happened yet. You never let it come in.
And oftentimes it's good things happening. You got to be able to identify when a good thing is happening and let it breathe and let it happen, right?
Yep. And oftentimes what I see people doing is they create an outcome that might have nothing to do with the outcome that actually ended up happening.
What?
But it was our idea of what could possibly happen, and that's what we protected against. But then it led you on this whole other path of something that wasn't even occurring in the first place. So look at your own process of how you're making decisions, right? If you're self-sabotaging, you are letting yourself be driven by your emotional reaction to a situation, right? You're sometimes creating worst case scenarios in your mind. You're having these like what if fears. That's when you can know that, okay, maybe this is not on the right path. Maybe I need to look at these things and just let it happen. Like you were saying, Soleil, see where it goes and adapt along the way instead of just putting my blockers up immediately. And look at your history. Like, did I react the same way last time when this same exact thing happened to me and I got an outcome that was not desirable because I self-sabotaged and... right? So that's really important, is ask yourself, have I done this before? And see what your process is for how you're talking to yourself about what's happening. So like we said, are we making excuses for ourselves about things that aren't even occurring? Or are we like, oh, they won't even want me there? Or, you know, oh, I'm getting more attention as this healthier version of myself, but I don't want to take up too much space. Or, you know, all these things. Look at your own process and see how that can be updated for the better, growing, changing, adapting version of you. And then as these things happen, as you look at your self-talk and you look at your past responses and the patterns and your limiting beliefs and all those things, ask yourself, why? Like, why am I hesitating about these things? Why do I have a fear of failure? Why do I have a fear of my own success? You know, where is that coming from? What phrases am I using that are recreating the same situation that was a fear that somebody else put on me?
Yeah.
And then challenge yourself to do something different. We will always encourage you on this podcast, and if you talk to us at any place in life, we're always going to challenge you to be trying something new, because that's how you get a different outcome and that's how you change your life for the better. So test that flexibility. Test your ability to try something new and adapt to change, even if it's a very small thing to begin with.
Yeah. And also another thing is to check your timing, right? Where it's like, if you're self-sabotaging, and what I mean by check your timing when you're making those decisions is, are you taking a reasonable time to pause, to plan, to prepare? Or are you in a constant, endless preparation mode and moving your goalposts further and further and further to when you'll be ready, right? If you're pushing the goalposts back like further, you're self-sabotaging too, because you're not really taking any action towards the goal. You're just moving it back, and then you have to ultimately deal with the outcome of what it looks like when you keep moving the goalposts back. So take reasonable time, but also take action.
And that inspired action is something that we do in the moment, even when we don't feel ready, right? It's when you do something, no matter how small it is, just to push you in that direction of change, instead of that pattern that you've been practicing of making excuses and reasons why you're just not ready to do it yet. So an example of this is like when I was going through that process of really transforming my health, I was very self-conscious about going to the gym in particular, because I didn't really like know how to work out. which was a fabricated fear. And when you're at the gym, if y'all go to the gym, you know that nobody cares. Everybody's in their zone with their headphones in. They're doing their own thing. Nobody's sitting around watching you for 45 minutes. But I had this whole, like, irrational fear in my mind about it. And I had to create a workaround for that because it always pushed my goalposts. I was never ready to face that fear. Yes, like I was never ready. So I actually had to create a different approach to the problem where I felt like, okay, you know what? I can start here instead of starting where I thought I had to start, which is go to the gym. And I actually started when I was living out of the country, and I started walking and then jogging and then running outside in the park. So it was like no one could watch me. I'm like in the woods, right? let my fears still be there. You know?
Yes, you created another way.
Listen, and it was like I started that day. I went out right then, and I was like, I am doing this today. And then I did it every single day, and in a short period of time, just moving my body out in the park, no gym membership, none of that, I was losing pounds. I think I lost like 35 pounds in a few months or something like that. This like diligence because I started that day.
I love that. And people don't realize how
just
the commitment, start where you are, just the commitment, the action of just starting now, even if it is even if it is altering your action, like what you say, you know what, I'm not comfortable going to the gym, but I'm gonna go do something else. Still being almost like you don't shake up with what you're about to do. You make it work somehow. You don't say, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. No, you're going to do that. You're just gonna figure out another way to do it. I love that. I love that.
There's always an option. Turn your excuse into an opportunity because it exists. It exists.
And you completely canceled out your self-sabotage in that process, right? Where it's like you examine your decision. You made it work for you. So what I want to do for the audience today, I really want to talk about 3 steps to cancel your self-sabotage. It is possible, okay? Yes. It is possible.
We did it.
We did it. We really did it. It is possible to cancel your self-sabotage, okay? And here's how you're going to do it. First step is you're going to acknowledge worthiness. This is important. We always talk about self-esteem and self-worth in this podcast. And the more that you affirm yourself, the more that you're going to believe it, and then you're going to do something to act out that affirmation. So it's important. This step is the first step in recognizing that you are worthy of greatness, love, and all the good things that come in your way. And you actually have power in the action. You have power in creating it, and you have power in receiving it, okay? So in the action, every day, affirm yourself. I am worthy of receiving love. I am worthy of receiving success. I am worthy of receiving happiness. Write this affirmation somewhere visible where you could see it every single day. Say it out loud in the mirror. We love a mirror exercise in a quality education. And believe it or not, it's more uncomfortable than what you realize, because when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, there is no hiding. I remember when I was younger, I was having like some self-confidence issues, like high school, whatever. And someone told me, you have to look in the mirror and say, I love myself. I love myself. And give yourself 10 reasons why you love the way that you look. And after a while, I was like, I love my hair. I love my eyes. I love my this. I love my that. But it was so hard to get to that confident point. You know, that point where you're like saying it with all the strength in your body. And I need you to practice that today. The goal is to internalize that you deserve magnificent outcomes. Now, if you believe it, you will see life change. I promise you. Promise you. Mm-hmm.
And this one's tricky to start with because you might not have an idea of that person that you're visualizing yourself as, or you might not know what it feels like to feel worthy of love because you haven't had that experience before. Mm-hmm. But the idea is for you to start programming yourself with the presence of those ideas so you can start to embody it and know what it feels like to feel that way. So it's okay if you don't know, if you don't have anything to anchor yourself to at first. It's the idea of kind of programming and prepping yourself with that concept so it becomes a part of you and you can
I like
actually
that.
feel worthy.
Prepping yourself for when good things happen.
Yes.
Love that. Love
Yes.
that.
And then you'll be
Love
ready
that.
to receive.
You ready to receive. So that's all internal work, right? Number 2, identify and release limiting beliefs. We talked about how past experiences and unconscious beliefs really does impact almost your relationship to when good things happen to you, right? So this step, many people unconsciously believe that they're not good enough or that they don't deserve great things, which blocks them from receiving. Or they may even have a general belief that money is the root of all evil. Like, they might have a general belief that is blocking them from accepting, because we all need money in the world. We have to eat. We have to survive. You're blocking the acceptance of that happening. So the action that goes with this, reflect on any limiting beliefs that you have around receiving abundance or receiving love, and ask yourself, what beliefs are holding me back from accepting success and love? Once you identify that, work on releasing them by replacing negative beliefs with empowering ones, like the affirmation we did in step 1. I am open to receiving everything that is meant for me. I'm open to receiving everything that is meant for me. Those limiting beliefs are not serving you at all whatsoever. Whether it's about yourself, whether it's about the world. You ever heard like the world is a hard place to live in? That's not prepping you. That's not prepping you for a good day. It's not prepping you for anything. Manage the way that you speak and manage your limiting beliefs. So number 2.
And I love that practice because it orients you around it doesn't have to be something so specific all the time. It's you being open and receptive to everything that is meant for you. One of the ones I use is I am open and receptive to everything that is good and great. Right? So it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's meant for me and it's phenomenal, then I want it. I want that.
I
Right?
have one too, yeah.
Yes.
No lie.
Yes.
I am a good receiver. And let me tell you something.
Period.
I am a great receiver. Before, I wasn't the greatest when I was younger, okay? And I would always remind myself, when people say, now it's like even little things, right? Like if my friend, I don't know, offered me water or a piece of gum, I program myself to say, yes, thank you. Like, yes, thank you. Yes. Oh, you need this? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm like, I'm a good receiver. Be a good receiver.
Yes.
Period.
And that's uncomfortable too, right?
It's so uncomfortable.
Yes, but we can practice that, and over time what you realize is that whole process affects your worthiness as well.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, I can take up this space, right? I can be deserving. I can have good outcomes. And again, this is prepping you for when greatness comes your way.
Yes.
Because you will be ready to receive that instead of putting up all these blockers because your lack of self-esteem and worthiness is telling you that you should not have that good relationship. You don't deserve all that money.
Or
you
you're
don't
being
deserve that job.
What? Or you're being an inconvenience to someone. I see people struggle with that. They're like, I'm being an inconvenience to someone else's life. No, you're not. They're offering you good things in your life for a reason. They want to contribute just like you want to contribute to them. Period.
Yep.
So just be a good receiver. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
That's that. Okay?
The third step, I feel like, is equality education.
Period.
The company was born out of this.
This step. It's so true. And this step is practice gratitude for what you have. Gratitude is such
easy.
what? It's so easy. But you know, so people, you know what's so funny? People think that they live in gratitude. They think that they're being thankful. But they have no idea. Like, they don't really feel the fact that if you're breathing right now, it's a blessing. Your lungs are working for you. If your blood, you don't think about blood rushing in your body. It is just happening. It is moving in your body. There are people right now that may not have the same circumstance. And we operate and walk with our 2 feet like it's nothing, like it's just what it is. But there are individuals that don't have that. So you have to practice being grateful for what you have, because gratitude is a powerful tool when combating self-sabotage, because it shifts your focus from what's wrong or what's lacking in your life to what's going good in your life. It shifts your focus completely.
And we have a predisposition as humans to focus on all of the things that are wrong. Mm-hmm. And we blow it up in our mind, and we create that worry and anxiety from that place. When in actuality, if you were to write down on a list any given situation, all the things that are going right and all the things that are going wrong, you would shock yourself with the percentage of time everything is working out in your favor in your life. It would shock you.
Shock you.
Right? And even like you just said, okay, so this thing comes my way that's an undesirable outcome. But then if I were to list out all of the things internally that are happening with me that are right while that undesirable outcome came, well, my blood is still flowing, my heart is still beating, I'm still breathing oxygen.
Yeah.
I'm still in shelter, right? Yes. My eyes still work, so there's all of these things. You can deep dive into it and it will blow your mind.
Or you have someone you can call to talk to. Some people don't have someone to call to talk to. That's a big deal. I love what you said, Ari, about like people always counting what is wrong with their life, but they totally discredit everything that is going good. And gratitude grows. Actually, energy grows. Energy grows. So if you're in gratitude, you're gonna receive more. But if you're not in gratitude, unfortunately, you're gonna be always manifesting not being things to not be grateful for.
And this is great because as you practice this more and more, you will start to position your mind from a place where you expect those good things to come to you.
Yes.
And when you start to expect that, you notice it more and more. And when those outcomes make their way to you, you are happy to receive it. You feel worthy to receive it because you practice step 1 and step 2.
Yes.
And then what you notice is you are receiving the flow of good and great things into your life continually, and you are not blocking those blessings anymore. It's a beautiful process.
Beautiful. So beautiful. It really is. And you can start small. You can start a daily gratitude practice where you're writing down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for each day. Just 3 to 5 things. I am grateful for blank. This will ultimately shift your focus from lack of abundance to creating energy of openness and receiving and more goodness into your life. It will totally just create more of that goodness if you start acknowledging what you already have.
Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, if someone wants to learn a little bit more about self-sabotage,
yes,
where can they start?
So I will say, I read a great book, Ari. We read a great book, I believe, where it's called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, so sorry, but you were phenomenal if you ever hear this. It talks all about self-sabotage. It will give you so much insight on how it's operating in your life, or just like even your emotional reaction, how something like jealousy is self-sabotaging. People don't realize jealousy is the emotion that is so close to inspiration. It's just operating backwards. So this book is phenomenal. I highly recommend it completely.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So start there, and our reminder to you that we will always remind to you that as you go through this process and look at yourself through a very honest and raw lens, that your process of self-reflection is not self-criticism. You can understand these parts of yourself that maybe have been shadowy for you for some time and not be wrong about it. You can admit that there are areas of your life that you're excited to grow into and not feel bad about the things that have already happened. So don't feel that you have to criticize yourself for all the ways that you have left to grow, because that's what we're here for. We're growing every day. We're excited. We want to see you do it. And we promise to be committed to that process ourselves. So self-reflection is not self-criticism.
Love, self-reflection is not self-criticism, okay?
And
love that.
Everyone's call to action for this week, and Soleil and I will be doing these things as well.
Period.
Is for you to start with acknowledging that worthiness. Use an affirmative phrase like, I am worthy of receiving love, success, and happiness. Bonus points for you doing it in the mirror, because it will blow your mind. And identify and release those limiting beliefs by using phrases like, I am open to receiving everything that is meant for me. Get that messy, yucky, non-deserving stuff out of your head. And then practice gratitude by listing out the smallest or the biggest and everything in between things that you are grateful to have in your life every day. And that will help you get on the process of interrupting that pattern of needing to self-sabotage by protecting yourself from something that never even happened to you.
Yes. Notice, we really want you to notice the situations where you may be blocking your blessings. And decide a new pattern of actions you are going to take moving forward. So this was such a powerful, I love this conversation. So this is, probably the thing that ultimately transformed. We always say this every episode, but these are very valuable information, I promise. So
these are
stop
all
blocking.
foundational.
It's all foundational, and we want everybody stop blocking your blessings. Stop it.
Yep.
Period.
And as you start to recognize these things, it will get easier. And as you have a challenge that comes up along the way, if you don't have somebody safe that you can talk to, come and chat with us, because we always are interested in those conversations and helping our friends win.
Yes.
That's what we're here for. Yes.
Wonderful. I hope this is helpful.
Y'all next time.
Peace out. A-Town. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Friends Who Want You to Win, where we give you the everyday advice that you need to boost your self-confidence, build meaningful relationships, how to stop self-sabotage, and so much more.
Yes, but your story doesn't end here. If you are ready to break free from old patterns, step into your greatness, and take control of your life, our monthly membership is your next move.
Inside, you'll find life-changing tools, live expert guidance, and a community dedicated to supporting you to unlock your full potential.
So don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Reach out today for more info on why joining us will be the best decision you have ever made for yourself. Your greatness is waiting. Let's discover it together.
For more information on how to join, get in touch with us at www.theequalityeducation.com.